Hi all, dear listeners. Welcome to this new episode of my podcast, A Digital Tomorrow. I'm joined this time by Emil Chan, one of the most important authorities or voices in the fintech industry in Hong Kong. Emil is a fintech evangelist, a futurist. He's advising many fintech companies. He's also an adjunct professor at the City University of Hong Kong, adjunct lecturer at HKU Space, visiting lecturer at the Hong Kong Polytechnic University. So as you can see, Emil is very involved in the fintech area from both advising companies, teaching, participating in conferences. He's always talking about these very interesting topics that he's going to summarize now. So for that, I'm very honored to host Emil today. So thank you very much for accepting my invitation.
Thank you to your invitation to Oreo. So I'm very happy to be here to share my opinions about particularly today's topic, right? About Hong Kong's future.
Well, indeed, the pleasure is absolutely mine, and I think we're going to enjoy this topic very much because, as you know, I've been based in Hong Kong. I was based in Hong Kong actually for a few years, and I'm still very involved with the fintech scene in Hong Kong. So today we're going to talk about Hong Kong and Web3. No, the idea would be precisely to talk about Hong Kong emerging as Asia's leading fintech and Web3 hub, especially in the midst of the Greater Bay Area. So without further ado, I wanted to ask you, Emil, your thoughts about this topic.
Yeah. So we used to very proud of our innovation in the past 10 years, well, maybe 15 years ago, when I firstly traveled to China to give a talk. You know, the first thing I will introduce to them is was our Octopus, the payment system that is operated by third party, not the banks. Then nearly all the transport company get together and solve their payments problems. Since then, the whole city, nearly the major merchants, they are accepting Octopus, and then we were taking the lead in the movement of funds on the retail arena. But as you know, lately, because of the Labor Day long weekend, a lot of Chinese tourists they flooded into Hong Kong to enjoy their holiday, and the news was about there were very long queue at the Star Ferry Pier. Why? Because after the COVID, then not many people come to Hong Kong. Then probably they do not have the Octopus card. So if they are not coming often, they won't buy a new card. So Star Ferry only offer cash and Octopus. So of course, as a Chinese tourist, is not very convenient. And ended up, it's not only the commuter cannot cross the harbor, not only the tourists, but the general public, and then it will become a very negative or a news or whatever situation that Hong Kong has to face. So I'm talking about general public. I'm talking about commuter in Hong Kong. But if you apply the same to our financial service industry, so they are not tourists. They might be somebody in China. They are interested in buying some investment. They might be interested in getting insurance. They might be interested in set up a company in Hong Kong and do international trading. So if we are still using paper check, if we are asked to do our account opening or do our KYC, AML, ongoing identity authentication, and physically still going to the branch in Hong Kong, I don't think it is a solution. So the situation will be more or less like, Star Ferry Pier, but it will be a very serious issue if the customer, they found that, oh, then because Starfree cannot help me to cross the harbor, I might take the MTR. They accept WeChat, Alipay. So for payment, the same. If I cannot do international trade, I cannot get our insurance locally in Hong Kong, they might consider Singapore. UAE somehow, you know, it is more to the Middle East. So it is a serious issue. So if we do not have a solution, Hong Kong, the so-called super connector, will suffer. We cannot connect them because simply because our payment systems is too outdated.
Well, I agree. I mean, I think that having a fast, resilient, seamless payment system is basic. I think that's very basic. And I think in that sense, based at least on my sensation, I would say that mainland China is perhaps ahead in many ways. So, I mean, cash is seldom used in China. You rarely see cash, especially in big cities now. Hong Kong is advanced in some senses, but I think that it's still quite reliant on cash sometimes. So I think what you say, it's important, especially for Hong Kong, aiming to be this super connector that you mentioned now.
Yeah, and we got a lot of tourists. So not only China, you might also aware that even in India, even in Africa. So people are used to cashless. And when I travel to Southeast Asia, so after the COVID, I travel quite a few times. I already can survive with my Visa, Master, and even Union Pay card. I took the MRT in Singapore without getting any ticketing system. Just use my Google Pay with my phone. I can commute easily. So if the general public in other cities used to paperless, when they travel to Hong Kong, and they will find that why I have to still use an autobus, why I have to get a card and get deposit first. Back at home I don't have to. So this is the fundamental issue. So when they are coming to Hong Kong, not for leisure, they are coming to Hong Kong for business. Then they will ask the same. Why I have to use paper check? Why I have to go to the branches of the bank to sign something? No chance. So they might complain. They might not be happy. Then they will pick, like many businesses lately in the past couple of years, they moved to Singapore because you do not have to do these kind of businesses physically in person.
Actually, it's very interesting what you mentioned, because I remember that when I moved to Hong Kong to work, I'd already visited Hong Kong many times before as a tourist, but then I finally went to Hong Kong to study and to work. And one of the things that shocked me the most was to see that despite Hong Kong being so advanced in so many ways, I mean, Hong Kong is fantastic. I mean, it's convenience-wise, no, MTR. I mean, there are many areas where I think Hong Kong is much more advanced than many other cities, but it shocked me a bit to see that when it comes to what you said now, certain parts of banking, payments, Hong Kong is still a bit, outdated, I could say, in the sense that, for example, I saw things that in Europe I hadn't seen since maybe the 90s. Like, for example, I got paid once by a check. Checks pretty much virtually disappeared here, maybe like 20 here in Europe, 20-ish years ago.
Decades.
And I still, I still got paid more than once in checks. This kind of idea that I thought that, it shocked me a bit to see how to combine this well-advanced society in many ways with certain payments practices that to me were a bit outdated. So I think what you say makes perfect sense, that especially when it comes to business, it is important for Hong Kong to try to remain more updated.
Exactly. So I was talking about all those problems. Okay, we used to be very advanced, but we are still using that old advanced system without changing it, upgrading it for decades. So now we need new solutions. So as the government said, we strive to be the Asia or even the world digital asset trading center. So digital asset, you know, we use a wallet, we use digital exchanges. We do not have to sign anything. When I was, you know, maybe 2017, I bought my first Bitcoin. I don't have to go to the bank. I don't have to sign any signature. I just download an app. At the first time, it's not an app. It was a MetaMask on the browser. So I moved my funds from this place to the other place without all those problems. So if Hong Kong really have to be the so-called digital exchange center, those things we have to get rid of all of them. Of course, according to the late European MiCA, MICA, you know, the market in
Indeed.
Crypto asset, the new regime, we have to follow the transport rules. So that means we still have to do the KYC properly, the licensed body. I mean, of course, there's no chance for a general public to do peer-to-peer movement of value by any law. They recognize that. But if the licensee, the digital exchange in Hong Kong, has to carry out that process, certain level of KYC and AML must be in place. So in such a case, Hong Kong can bypass all those problems. If, you know, imagine 5 years later, 3 years later, we can use our MetaMask to pay for the fare of Star Ferry, then all problems gone. If it is so popular. So in such a case, I think, you know, we have Bitcoin, we have Ethereum, we have USDT. Those are from the new world. And we have cash, we have Octopus, and we have the Visa, MasterCard onto the traditional end. Hong Kong will be the place, I do believe that, not only to connect the East and the West traditionally through trading the products, services. Now we will have to connect the Eastern worlds. They have a very digitized payment system, and the Western world, they have the traditional thing, still with cash to a certain extent, particularly in USA. But in the Western world or the open world, we have the digital asset. So Hong Kong will be the super connector if we manage to connect all three things together. So, but Hong Kong at the moment not able. We need something else. We need something called central bank digital currency. Okay. Sorry, my cat calling me. Sorry, some background noise.
No problem.
So, central bank digital currency means what? So the infrastructure itself, they are using DLT. So they are inherited from Bitcoin. So that means it is programmable, and we can use smart contract to do the transaction without intermediaries or parties. And on the other hand, it is represent fiat currency. So that means it's packed with either US dollar, or packed with Hong Kong dollar, which is similar to US dollar because there's a 1 to 1.78 pack exchange rate. And also CBDC, the leader at the moment, the two-tier retail level CBDC is ECNY. So a lot of Chinese tourists, a lot of Chinese business ongoing. It is the same volume as the US dollar in Hong Kong on the B2B arena. So if Hong Kong can use CBDC to link the Western world to the Eastern world, the digital world to the analog world, to the old world, from the new world to the old world, then Hong Kong remain the same super connector and more superior than the past two.
I see. No, I think everything you mentioned now is very interesting. And I want to ask you something about Hong Kong and Web3 because, I mean, as most people know, many of the actually biggest crypto exchanges were initially born in Hong Kong. But then for a few years, Hong Kong became a bit more strict when it comes to regulating cryptos, etc., to the point that many of these businesses finally moved elsewhere, some went to Singapore, etc. And even until maybe 1 and a half ago, the places which emerged as Web3 hubs or crypto hubs in Asia were more Dubai, for example, on the MENA region, for Southeast Asia and East Asia, Singapore. So I think this shift to embrace Web3 much more came during the Hong Kong FinTech Week in November. I mean, we saw this announcement made by the Financial Services Treasury Bureau. I was actually speaking in that event as a speaker. I talked about regulating virtual assets, but I wasn't expecting this big shift again towards Web3, and I think it's interesting to see that. But before proceeding, I wanted to ask you why? Why now? Why do you think that Hong Kong has decided to embrace Web3 so much in order to become this Web3 hub in Asia and worldwide?
Wow, Oreo, you already mentioned that. It's not now. Hong Kong was the financial center. Hong Kong was the digital hub already. So not only the sizable one currently still operating, you know, those one already vaporized like FTX. Even USDT was invented in Hong Kong. Okay, Tether was a Hong Kong company. So in this sense, we already have the talents. We already, you know, have all those infrastructure serving the whole world in terms of Web3. Unfortunately, those days, the government did not understand the business, and they consider that, I think, this kind of business wasn't happen in Hong Kong. They are transparent to them. So when they firstly introduced the first version of this digital asset trading regime, they ignore those retail, they ignore those activity, and they did not ask the unseen party, because they are just an IT company in the books of the Hong Kong inland revenues system. So there's no stat about, you know, the volume size, how many talents they are hiring. So at the end of the day, when that law passed last year, no business can be carried on. So it's somewhat like in those days, I think a few years back, when Alibaba tried to relist it, to release in Hong Kong, Hong Kong SFC insists that for that organizational voting rights structure, they cannot be listed in Hong Kong. So ended up they moved to New York. So after not only Alibaba, but also the other technology giants or a biotech company or fintech company, they follow Alibaba, move to Hong Kong, and maybe move to New York, maybe London too. SFC finally changed the law, changed the rules. So this time the same. The government, the regulators learned a lesson, but this lesson even larger than the past one, because the impact in conjunction with the US and China friction, people move out of Hong Kong in the fastest pace. So they changed the law again. They accepted retail trading. They even have this press release from the senior government level telling the whole world that we are embracing Web3, and followed by these Chinese companies, listed companies. They form these Web3 association, you know, all showcase that they are backing up this new business. So then it's changed. The situation changed.
No, I agree. And I think that was a good parallelism, the one that you made before about the SFC rules. I mean, we all know why Alibaba went to New York, instead of Hong Kong, one share, one vote, etc. But I think it's in a good parallelism because to some extent, I think that what happened, I agree with you right now, is the same idea. That there's been this shift, this realization that certain areas need to be regulated differently. I would also like to ask you, to someone, I mean, I know that most people in Hong Kong and abroad are very familiar with the Web3 digital assets, whether they like them or not. I think that most people are familiar, but still, to someone who doesn't like or know much about this area, uh, what would you say are the main advantages for them to embrace Web3 globally, but especially in Hong Kong? Why should anyone also be part of this new Web3 world?
Well, as I mentioned before, Web3 was here. They're already there. It's just transparent to the regulators or to the government only. They are there. They are there already. It just move out, and then we open the door and put them onto the box, and then I think a lot of people misunderstand Web3. It's somewhat like they misunderstand cloud computing or mobile computing. They just said the data put into the cloud is is unreachable, so uncontrollable. So I would rather use my own computer. So there ended up no policy talk about cloud computing. If you have time, you might check. I think the first policy issued by HKMA about cloud computing only available a few years back. They talk about the policy, how the bank has to handle cloud computing services. So without these policies or guidelines, nobody dare to touch the latest technology. Nobody means those regulated companies do not want to touch it. But doesn't mean that the sizable company, they won't touch it. The small companies, the SME, the general public, they are using cloud computing. We are using cloud computing day to day. iCloud is on cloud. Gmail is on cloud. So we are using cloud, but there's no policy. So these Web3 situations, the same. Web3 technically is already there. And Hong Kong was the leader. And just nobody understand it, particularly the regulators, the government, the sizable company, they don't understand this. And now, because the government embraced Web3, so everybody got to relearn what it is. And the first thing they have to distinguish or to judge is whether it is true Web3 or whether it is a decent one. So true or not true. Some companies, they just put on a mask and saying that I'm a Web3 company, and then end up they are only Web2 with a mask. Yeah. Then some Web3 company, they are using Web3 to fool their investors. Okay, and I'm not saying that all NFT are unreliable, but as you know, to a certain extent, a lot of these so-called digital artwork, in my eyes, means nothing. It's just a JPEG. Everybody can generate one, but because everybody looking for and appreciation of the value, and then somebody just drive that feeling, okay, fear of missing out. So ended up, the price ran to a rocket high, and then now vaporized. So Web3 itself has a lot of advantage. Say decentralization of trust, value flow without intermediaries. These are the very important usabilities that traditional company, particular banks, particular even our citizen identity card or our e-health record, can make good use of. So if we have a better understanding of what actually Web3 is, then the situation will be quite different. So that's why I'm working hard in teaching in the universities and a lot of corporate training to tell the senior executive, what actually, Web3 is.
No, I think sharing your knowledge, teaching in these areas is very important. I try to do that myself as well. I'm teaching courses on CBDCs, and as you can see, I'm very involved in giving as many webinars and seminars as possible. And then I think that it's also very important to regulate this area properly. As you mentioned before, the idea of, well, not being sure about certain perhaps NFT projects. So I think this is why I think that leaving aside things like the value that don't depend on regulations, but I think that it is important nonetheless to regulate this area properly to make sure that everyone involved in this area is well protected, especially retail investors, and make sure that all the existing projects are completely legit. And following this, I know that Hong Kong is part of this mega project, the GBA or Greater Bay Area, in which the idea theoretically would be that each city would bring its prowess in one area in order to combine them all, to the point that I would say that Hong Kong is perhaps more advanced on the financial side, Shenzhen is more advanced maybe on the innovation IT side. So I wanted to ask you how or whether the GBA benefits somehow this role as Hong Kong as a Web3 hub. And I think it's an interesting question, not just because Hong Kong will benefit enormously from the GBA, but also because, as we all know, mainland China's approach to digital assets has been very different from that of Hong Kong. So do you think that the GBA somehow will benefit Hong Kong as a Web3 hub? And if so, how?
Well, as you know, Macau, for example, what's Macau's famous thing? The casino, right? The entertainment business. So with a casino, Macau has its own role. So when we are going for a event, entertain our customers or even our colleagues, we might go to Macau. Okay, that means it's about happiness. It's about entertainment. So each city in China, or particular GBA, should have their own purpose or own role to play in the city. Otherwise, if every city doing the same, then it's not the best approach. So talk about Hong Kong. What's Hong Kong? Hong Kong has certain level of gambling. Okay, we still have the race courses. We are allowed to gamble on football, for example. But Hong Kong is, as we mentioned, is a financial hub. It's a place not only for a movement of fund payments. It's a place where you can raise funds. It's a place where you can invest. So very commonly, a lot of Hong Kong people, they will buy their property because they believe that, property price will go, up, and then they invest. In China, not every product can be invested. Crypto is not allowed, for example, and some products, they are not available in mainland China. So Hong Kong is a place like Macau have a casino. Hong Kong is a place to provide these kind of services, these kind of asset classes that the Chinese citizen can invest. Because when the Chinese citizen invested, and it will create a phenomenon, and the liquidity will be increased, then it will attract Singaporean, American, or Australian, or European to come to Hong Kong to join that game. So for those products, for those asset classes that mainland China won't allow, it will be here. Hong Kong will play a role to help not only the world to take part in this very active investment arena, but for the talents in China. Imagine if China banned crypto for 10 years, 20 years, there will be no people in mainland China understand that business. What if, Europe, after the new MiCA regime passed, Europe will be very active in digital asset trading, then miss out. China will be completely miss out from this arena. So GBA, mainland China, will require Hong Kong to be the playground, to be the arena, to be the universities for the youngsters in China to learn about crypto, learn about Web3.
I see. Well, thank you very much, Emil, for sharing your thoughts about this and about all the previous topics that we mentioned. We are running out of time now, so we need to wrap up this episode soon. But I think it's been very interesting to hear from you regarding Hong Kong's payments, Hong Kong's role as, again, as a Web3 hub, your thoughts about the present, the future, etc. I think that it's all been very enlightening, and I would like to thank you very much for your time today.
Well, my pleasure too. Thanks for giving me this platform to voice out, to help Hong Kong to maintain its competitiveness.
I'm sure it will. I'm sure it will. I think Hong Kong is moving to the right path in these areas. And well, as I said, thank you again for your time, and to all my listeners, thank you very much for listening to this episode. I hope you got to learn a lot from Emil. In case you want to learn more from Emil, please feel free to follow him on LinkedIn, his social media, and feel free, of course, to follow my podcast as well.
Yes, so stay tuned.
Indeed, stay tuned. Thank you very much. See you all soon.
Okay, see you, bye.